Welcome back. This is going to be a testimony video about having to do with coming out of there's the connection between how generational, when there's a trauma in one of the generations, it can affect the generations lower than that. And this is going to be specifically about hoarding, poverty, and just the kind of fear associated with that, but really more about hoarding and kind of overcoming that. Because when we hold on to stuff, it's really, there's something on the inside that's going on, and sometimes we always don't see that. So I'm just gonna share a little bit about my story. Maybe it'll encourage somebody, but it encourages me. I love remembering and hearing what the Lord has done, and I think when we see somebody has a problem, I don't watch TV, but I think that there are some kind of shows that I've heard of that have to do with hoarding and stuff. But people can come alongside and they're like, you have a problem, you need to fix that. And I love how God works, because he knows that the source of the issue is on the inside, healing something in the heart, and the freedom, when that comes on the inside, it just naturally flows to the outside. So let me give you some examples. So 2009, when God brought me out, through a process of just repenting of generational stuff, and we don't know what's there, right? And then I went back to I had a condo in Southern California, and I had a couple, I rented 2 of the rooms. I lived in the master room, and I got so much freedom. It was like a process of repenting, deliverance, ministry, healing. I got healed of stuff, and then I got so much freedom. I went back out there and it was like, this whole thing has to change. And we organized stuff, and I threw tons of stuff away. I gave tons of stuff away, and it was we just had so much fun. That's where, when God gives us freedom on the inside, it's fun to do it on the outside. It just overflows to the outside. In relationships, it overflows in all sorts of ways. When we try to force things on the outside, it just doesn't, it's not order. It's not, God's order is spirit, soul, body. So I think sometimes we can look at someone, we're like, man, I wish you would fix that. And so we can try to do hinge or do stuff on the outside to maybe try to help them, and it doesn't work. We really need God's strategy if we want to come alongside and love someone out of something that we see as an issue. If God is pointing something out, then he will teach us how to pray and how to love that person in the midst of that, instead of just trying to help them because it's irritating us. And that would be from the enemy would be pointing out something just to be critical about it. But God is so good. So this is what this is what I saw. This was something that was really interesting, and I'm just gonna share. This is gonna sound really maybe wackadoo to some people, but I remember talking to my mom, and I was like, Mom, because I was throwing away tons of stuff, and I had underneath, this is gonna sound really, really crazy, but this is where stuff doesn't make sense, right? And this is why it was so wild, talk to my mom about it. And how generational stuff can affect this, which is the connection between hoarding and poverty, okay, and fear of poverty. Okay, so I had all these plastic bags, random plastic bags from anywhere, all shoved under my bed. And I remember I was like, this whole thing has to get cleaned out. And I was throwing away, and I was like, this is really, really weird. And I was throwing away all these plastic bags, and then shoved in all these different places in my closet and in my cabinets were all these water bottles filled with water. Okay, that sounds totally wild, but listen to this. This was great. This was a revelation to me. Okay, so I talked to my mom, and I was like, Mom, this is really weird, but the things that I'm throwing away, this stuff, God's done a lot of cleansing in me and a lot of healing and freedom on the inside, and the things that this is weird. So the things that I've been hoarding that I'm throwing away, it's hundreds of water bottles filled with water. And you have things, but you're not really, until you get freedom on the inside, sometimes you can't even see how wackadoo stuff is, right? And then you're this is wackadoo, what is this about? And so then I was like, and all these plastic bags under my bed, like what? Like, I don't know what this is. And I didn't even know why I was sharing it with her. This is where God is like so amazing. And my mom was like, those are the exact same things that your grandma, my mom, would hoard when we were little kids growing up. And I was like, what? And get this. Okay, so here's where Revelation comes in to start teaching us. Okay, so, I got to know a little bit about my mom's mom through my great aunt, because my mom's mom, Grandma Elsie, died when I was a little girl, but her great aunt, fabulous woman, who traveled all around. I mean, she was like back in the early 1900s when women didn't go to college. She went to college and she was all around, like in Guam and all sorts of places during the war, because she was a single woman. She's a physical therapist. She had like a little bit of a medical stuff. This is this sweet, amazing, like super like fun. But she had she had like small apartments that she lived in, but it was like filled with like stuff. Like that was like she collected stuff. It's a little bit like, but anyway, I noticed this thing. But my mom shared a little bit. She said, okay, so her dad, my grandpa, her dad, who never remarried after Grandma Elsie went to be with the Lord, he grew, so during the Great Depression, okay, this is where Revelation comes, during the Great Depression, and this is where generational strongholds can get started. So during the Great Depression and how they passed down, during the Great Depression, his family was out in the country. So they lived off the land. So the Great Depression really was not traumatic to them, right? But Grandma Elsie's family lived in the city during the Great Depression. So it really affected their family. And so there's like stuff like rejection and things like, fear of having kids, and just like rejection of children because of the fear of like money and, fear of poverty, and then the hoarding from that. And that really came down from that. And I actually was hoarding the exact same things that she was hoarding, and I never even knew that. Nobody ever told me that. Like there was something influencing me on the inside, and when God healed me, and I'm just like, boo, 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 whatever, going through this thing, repenting of all the generational junk, and so here's where, for you, for me, whatever, sometimes things are like the fruit of stuff is on the outside of what we're doing, but there's something that's rooted on the inside that when we allow God to lead us in those places of freedom, of repenting on the inside, then that stuff is just going to get cleaned up on the outside, and it can be based in like a trauma from our generations that we don't even know about, right? So may that be a blessing to you. We're at 8 minutes. I'm going to cut this off. So be free, be healed from poverty, from anything that was traumatic in the generations, from the Great Depression or anything, in the name of Jesus. Just be blessed in that. But may God minister to your heart in the freedom that He has done in me. Because I'll tell you what, it is absolutely fabulous to not be stuck in that, and be able to give things away and not hold on to stuff, and just like have more of an ordered, clean life. It's fun because creativity, actually, I believe an atmosphere of order and cleanness is where creativity flows. When there's an atmosphere of an oppression, there's more of a spiritual world that someone's living in, where it's oppressive and like there's like, it's like chaos, like stuff around. It's harder to be creative in what would it be? Because there can still be creativity, but it's chaotic. It's more of nothing. It can be all over the place, and it never is. Okay, so diligence, the word diligence is what's coming to my mind. The word diligence actually doesn't mean being busy. So, slothfulness versus diligence, laziness versus diligence. Diligence doesn't mean just being active and being busy. Somebody can be really busy, and it's actually out of a passive, lazy busyness. because they're like just fighting this passivity and fighting this like slothfulness on the inside, rather than actually having the freedom and the order to be diligent. Now, diligent doesn't mean just being busy and being like all over the place, right? I can be diligent and be resting in the Lord and having him give me ideas, strategies, ways to pray. That's a place of diligence, and there's rest. Diligence means like an arrow being pointed. So the true meaning of diligence, like at the root, if you study that in the Hebrew, it means like being sharp and pointed like an arrow. It's like without vision, the people perish. So true diligence, if in a biblical way, is direction and vision from the Lord, right? I don't just like create my own whatever. God will join the creativity, but it's way more productive and fun to do life with him rather than be my own whatever. Silly. When I have a creator who loves to join the adventure and make it way fun and way better. Okay, that's it for that one. It's 11 minutes. I just kept going. Okay, all right, be free.